Ah, it seems you've come back for part 2. Well then, here's part 2 of building a demon level. So when I opened up this level, I had recently just watched Tride's video on how he got his first featured level, and I was like, hey, there's bricks in the background. So I decided to improve the level a little bit by adding in bricks through the background, which I thought added so much, it looks so much better. Basically, I just grabbed a simple color and I just started building up a pillar, and then I just like copy and pasted that around, editing what they look like, rotating them around a bit, and it just made it look so much better. And I also had the opacity at 50, but I ended up changing that to 20 by the end. And with that, I improved the pre-drop a lot. It looked so much better. And with that, I was able to start on the gameplay for the drop. I started off with making a separate block design, and for some reason, I decided it would be a good idea to add like these pillars using bricks, which did not end up looking good. I hated how they turned out. But I decided to keep them for a little while, but then I got rid of them, thankfully. Then I decided to work on a spike design that was separate from the other areas because it would be too repetitive and I wanted some variety in it. And I like how they turned out actually. They look pretty good. And instead of spamming a bunch of spikes into it to make it look good, instead I took advantage of like more so glow to make it look better. But it still has some spike spam in it. And with that done and over with, I could finally start on making some of the gameplay, which ended up looking pretty good, I guess, but it could have definitely been better if I had just not sucked at making gameplay. So, yeah. After that, I did a bit of off-camera work, and I made a transition with it using the alpha trigger and a small little mini ship section that I think is actually kind of fun. I then made it quickly go back to normal size and added in a couple saws to, just some saws. Soon after, I started to work on some actual gameplay that wasn't just a bunch of saws, and I made it go into a spider part, which I thought was pretty big brain in my opinion. It's a really fun spider part, trust me. For the spider part, I struggled to come up with anything interesting, but I decided on just making some more simple and straightforward spider gameplay with some tight timing, since this is a demon level that made me to be around insane to extreme. After a bit more building, I got some pretty interesting gameplay in place, but I tried to make it to where that slope would push the spider into that one block area and he would go mini, but it just wouldn't work. He would just no clip straight through it. So I ended up trying some triggers, but none of them worked, so I just kind of scrapped that and replaced it with a black orb. After I made the spider part and finished out the layout for the drop, for the most part, I started decorating a bit of it. Basically, I did the same process as I did for the pre-drop, but left a couple spaces open to add in a bit more detail into it, because this is the drop and I want it to look the best. I did basically the same thing with the pre-drop. I just added in some glow, some important details that would make the level look better, and soon it was starting to come together really fast. I started adding some glow that is a bit more complex than what I did with the pre-drop. Then I started to add some arrows to make it just look overall better, and some just indicators for some air deco. Then for the ground spikes, and most of the sections of the ground spikes, I added in these like short little stubby monsters in it to make it just look better and for a bit more detail, and I think it looks amazing. Then I of course added in the custom background, because I mean you gotta have a custom background always, no matter what. So yeah, then I just added in a foreground, and now that part was pretty close to being done. Then I added the low opacity orange bricks into the background of this part of the level, and it started to look really good. It was turning out really well. I thought this was getting real good in terms of decoration. Just look at how this looks. I then started working on some wave gameplay, which I quickly finished the outline for, but the actual decoration took forever. happen, I was kind of surprised and happy at the same time too, knowing that I'm actually putting enough effort into this to make it like good and like some that people would probably like to play and like visually appealing. Anyways, I also added in some glow pulsing at the top as usual because it just looks so good. It looks so good, and it's probably a much easier way to do it than the way I'm doing it, but I'm just choosing to just choose the hard way. Part of the drop is now done, and I ended with a whopping 23 seconds for part 2. Here is a little sneak peek. So yeah, that's the level so far. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and join the Discord.